Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share my full review, the digitally digested segment, for the Samsung Galaxy Fold. Now, for those of you that have missed my coverage of this nearly $2,000 phone, that is the first of its kind, that is that it's able to actually deliver a folding 7.3-inch Super AMOLED screen. Welcome to the future. This is what it's all about. This is next gen. You have the ability to multitask. You can see I've got YouTube here, I have a web browser here, and I can even add to that. If I want to drag another browser over here, I can. Now, for whatever reason, we can't do 4 things at once, but I would imagine that'll probably come with time. And you can adjust the sizing, you can adjust position, you can adjust each individual, well, at least I could before. You can adjust each individual window. See the little tab icon right there. You can make it full screen, switch over to that. It's amazing. I mean, this is the ability to have a traditional smartphone that is completely friendly to single-handed use combined with a tablet. And whether or not you can appreciate this technology is really a matter of personal preference. Some people will think it's just a gimmick. I assure you it is not. Now, this absolutely would be my everyday phone. This would be my daily driver had it not been delayed. But at the same time, I'm thankful that it was delayed because Samsung was able to fix things that would have prevented it from ever having the success that may still be ahead for it. And quite frankly, it's sold out everywhere that it's been launched, including here in the States. I mean, I had to drive nearly 300 miles to pick this thing up. That tells you something. It means that chivalry, at least when it comes to technological innovation, is not dead. And with that in mind, the Fold is amazing. Now, had this come out on time, it would be my everyday phone, and it would be easily justifiable because it is truly a 2-in-1 at the same cost of picking up a flagship smartphone and tablet. But Samsung made a flagship smartphone, the Note 10 Plus, and the Tab S6 less expensive, and screwed me on the return window, so here we are. And that doesn't mean that I regret it, because I do really enjoy using the Note 10 Plus, and I wish this thing had pen input, but we're dealing with a plastic substrate on the interior, which is why you need to be careful. Even a fingernail can scratch this internal display. So with that in mind, as long as you respect and understand that, you have the best phone on earth, as far as I'm concerned, even with some of the ugliest things that can possibly be viewed. And its performance is fantastic. You've got a Snapdragon 855, 12 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of internal storage. No headphone jack. Thank Apple for that. They've been stripping ports and functionality off of devices for years, and now Samsung and Microsoft have really got on point with copying them, which is let's make more money and give consumers less. Thank God Samsung hasn't completely gotten rid of their innovative queue. Otherwise, we would not be looking at a device like this. And if you have problems with this device, if this device upsets you, consult a psychiatrist. That's the first thing I can say. Because even if you don't want one of these, it shouldn't upset you. This is amazing. And I have a history with OLEDs going back to college. I mean, not high school, but college. Now that dates me. That I was researching and investing in them, and bendable screens was one of the key appeals, besides every other, that OLED brings in terms of contrast, real-time, latency, basically nil, vibrancy, all of those things. But the bendable screen one, I wasn't sure when we were going to see it. So when this got delayed, I was disappointed, but not heartbroken, because Samsung hadn't quit. Although I wasn't confident that they really hadn't quit, because there wasn't enough to confirm, in spite of how much money they spent on this thing, that they were absolutely coming back. But they did. That's the good news. And this is an amazing piece of hardware. I mean, you're getting all of the same cameras, except a lot more of them than you get with the S10 or Note 10 Plus or Note 10. They all are completely competent. 3 here, 1 here, 2 on the interior. And a lot of people will say, why? Why did they need to do this with a notch? Because if they didn't, people would have complained that they would have had to go to the front screen in order to shoot a selfie. So, and also, what is the point of calling it a Fold if you can't utilize this in every regard? So there has to be this here. So no more questions about why is there a notch. I'm not pro-notch. Let's be really clear. And hopefully one day they'll engineer this in a different way. In the meantime, if you want to change your screen settings so that it cuts off here and you lose screen real estate, be my guest. I'm not a fan of that. But better that they actually allow you to use the Fold to its full potential, right? I mean, otherwise they're essentially taking a product that's pitched completely on this. It's not called the Galaxy front screen. It's called the Galaxy Fold, and they are destroying it. And also, anyone who's complaining this screen isn't large enough, again, this is about the screen on the inside. Not to sound ridiculous, it's not what it's about on the outside. It's all about what it is on the inside. And I mean, it's completely the truth. I mean, this is an amazing piece of hardware. Oh God, an amazing piece of hardware. There's a reason that I can't pull up a news site without this being there. Watch, even if I go to state news, are you ready? I bet you. You see how frequently I go there. I mean, I actually, as a student of media, do look at Fox News. There's only so much misinformation one can take. But I won't get political. I'll save that for another channel, another time. Look, even Fox loads slowly. I'm going to try that again. There we go. Oof. Completely different headline, right? There's a reason. Anyway, the whole idea here is, and let me get rid of that, is that you have something that maybe Apple will come up with in 5 years. I mean, it took them that long to finally get on board with OLEDs, right? I mean, Apple users years ago were like, oh, you have an OLED? What does that even mean? What's an OLED? And now they love their OLEDs, even though they've only had them for several generations. Whereas anyone who's purchased a Samsung phone over 10 years has had OLEDs for a long, long time. Long time. But foldable ones, well, this was always coming. It was just a matter of who would actually put their money where their mouth is. So anyone who hates this product is just an idiot. Now, disliking the fact that this can't take a hit, I understand. This is a plastic substrate. It is not Gorilla Glass. It means that even with a nail, even this nail right here, get it in focus, okay? I could theoretically scratch this screen. And that's why there's a warning. Then you've got the magnets to worry about. Could they wipe your credit cards? Could they interfere with your pacemaker? Possible. So that's another thing you have to be prepared for. And then there's no IP rating, no dust or water resistance. Welcome to 2000 and, I don't know, first iPhone, second iPhone, third iPhone, fourth iPhone, fifth iPhone. I mean, you tell me. When did the iPhone get an IP rating? Was that like 3 years ago? 4 years ago? Something like that? So that's another thing you've got to compete with. But I don't see that as a problem. I see that as something you have to retrain your brain. You know, if you were used to, like me, I got the Note 10 Plus here. That is my daily driver. It will remain my daily driver. That's Samsung's fault. Blame no one else. This would have been, in spite of everything I'm saying about the IP rating. I have no problem adapting. I have for a week without issue. So as delicate as this is, as non-water and dust resistant as it is, this absolutely would have been my phone, my everyday go-to. An amazing piece of hardware that I'm just glad we've been blessed with. The question is, will you be the same way? And the fact that a consumer like myself, and I mentioned this in my comparison, is not actually going to purchase or keep this, I should say, it's a big problem for Samsung. It's a big problem for innovation and technology. And I can only hope that the rest of you do go out and buy it, unlike myself, and keep it, because this is a step in the correct direction. In terms of software identity, I wish that it had the Note Pen, but of course with this plastic substrate and no Gorilla Glass, you can't do that. Will that change in the future? Most likely. I would bet on it for sure. And when you look at what Microsoft has done with the Duo that they announced, that I covered, that will come out in the holiday season of 2020, welcome to 2010. I mean, yes, it's got the refinement, the modern looks of something from today's market, but it's a clamshell. I mean, I covered the Libretto 105 in 2011. 2 screens, an hour of battery life, and it could, deal with HD video, but Microsoft hadn't stepped into the world of multiple displays. This is not a multiple display, this is a single. So when people compare this to the Duo, I feel like you're dealing with apples and oranges. Also, this is Microsoft's first play in the mobile handset business since 2014? That's one I'll sit out. most likely, even though God knows I'll end up reviewing that thing, most likely. The Neo, for sure. But that's something to be said. So when people say to me, I'm going to go with the Duo, I'm going to wait for Microsoft, what do you think the next version of the Fold is going to be like? And even though this doesn't have much other than the multitasking that I just showed you, and of course the ability to deal with most apps transitioning from the front preliminary screen to the interior screen, that's already a step in the right direction. If Samsung can create more than what they have here from a software perspective, not only are they ahead in terms of hardware, being that this is their own tech, but software. I mean, the One experience, which used to be TouchWiz, is really polished. It works really well. Virtually lag-free between the 12 gigs of RAM, Snapdragon 855. All those things are only going to get better. And that ½ terabyte of storage is the fastest on the market, even without expansion capability. All of that can be built upon. They can include storage expansion in the next gen. And they probably will get around to pen input at some point once they're no longer dealing with a substrate. But that's not where things are at right now. So focusing on where they are, the cameras perform really well. I'm going to bring out a camera to take a picture of for irony. Let's go ahead and get that in focus. And by the way, you can move the shutter button around. So if you prefer to have the shutter button, didn't cooperate. Whoops. If you prefer to have the shutter button, it's still not cooperating. Well, if you want to move the shutter button, you can, even though right now I'm for some reason failing at that. Okay. Snap a shot, go in there, take a look. Pretty good. I can see the fuzz on the optical steady shot right there. Excuse the light, the glare. It's pretty good. Pretty good image. And that's because the cameras on here are still top notch. You know, pretty much best in class. I mean, Apple users will tell you otherwise, but best in class. 4K video, also really good. This is a great device, okay? There's nothing bad about it other than the fact that you need to be fragile. I'm not even going to call it babying it anymore because, I mean, smartphones have occupied their own space in my pants. That sounds weird, but their own pocket for years. I can't remember the last time I put my phone in the same pocket as keys, a wallet, any of those things, simply because they've all gotten too large. It's not because I'm even babying them. It's because who has pockets big enough to carry around the current flagships from Apple or Android manufacturers, and then something else? You must have the biggest pants on earth, biggest pockets on earth, biggest purse on earth. You get what I'm saying here. So as long as you take all of that into account, I think you're good with the Fold. The problem for me personally, I've already mentioned, and I did this in my comparison, is that they made me a deal that I couldn't refuse. And that was a little over $1,000, got me the Note 10 Plus, which has all this hardware without the folding screen, and an S Pen, which isn't enough to pull me away from the Fold, but then throw in a Tab S6 with 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, which is a true tablet. It's becoming harder and harder for me to justify this guy right here, as much as this is what I've been waiting for literally more than 15 years. And I have. I mean, screens start small, folks. I knew that LCDs would replace plasmas. I know that OLEDs will replace LCDs. It's a matter of time. This is, things start small, they get larger and larger and larger. And now here in phones, we've got the largest OLED display ever. And it folds. It folds because this is what has to happen. If you want phones to keep getting larger and larger, which is all they do these days, the only way you can do that is exactly what you see here. Otherwise, you won't have to worry about what can be in the same pocket or in the same purse. You're just not going to be able to carry it. It's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be the equivalency of carrying an actual tablet. And then the whole concept is undone. It's not a phone anymore. It's just a tablet. It's what you already have. It's your iPad Pro. It's your Tab S6. It's your Surface Pro, even though that one runs Windows, which a lot of people are grossed out by. But you get what I'm saying. I still like the Surface Pro. Nothing else like it. I mean, there are a lot of wannabes, but there's only one. But the reality is that so many of you out there want a mobile OS, and that's why Microsoft, of course, has introduced that with the Surface Pro X. Good luck to them on that, by the way. I mean, Samsung's been doing that for years already. So they're really betting on their brand. But the Fold delivers. I've had no hardware issues. Now, if you get this wet, if you mistreat it, $150 is the price of replacement for the first year of ownership, which I think is a bargain. You know, for me personally, I'm not used to an agreement like that, but Samsung did it for a reason. They know that the majority of purchasers, consumers, are not going to necessarily treat this with the care that it needs. So they're giving you one chance for $150 to get it all wiped away like it never happened. That's a great deal. Again, you have to purchase this phone before the end of 2019 to get that offer. Who knows what they'll do in 2020? That's where things stand right now. And then, of course, if you have the applicable insurance, this is another reason I don't understand this. Oh, it's $2,000, it's too expensive. No, I would make the argument that the other phones are too expensive because they don't really offer anything new. It's more of the same repackaged. It's repackaged crap with updated specs that won't necessarily make any difference in your life. This will actually have an impact on day one. I'm speaking to you Apple users, especially because you don't care about how much RAM you have. You don't care about really anything spec-wise. You and Apple have proven that. Apple's share price proves that. Their profits prove that. But here, we actually have something new finally. And if this came from Apple, I'd be saying the exact same thing. Don't think this praise is reserved for Samsung. It absolutely is not. The fact of the matter is Apple's no longer about innovation, just margins. And any of you that think that Samsung still pushed this out because they just want to be first, holy crap, they are first. They invested all this money in OLEDs. They still don't even make OLED televisions. They dropped out of the camera business. Their focus is solely on delivering OLEDs that will change the world, essentially. And that's what this does. This is not a gimmick. I'm so sick of reviewers saying, it's just a gimmick. I understand that from a price point perspective, it's a gimmick, but it's not a gimmick. It's a screen that folds. Oh yeah, you can't show me one. You can show me some Chinese prototypes that are going to come out sometime over the course of next year. Fantastic. Are they going to have the brand of Samsung behind them? No. Are they going to have Microsoft? No. Are they going to have Apple? No. LG? No. So for the foreseeable future, this is the only game in town. And again, even though Samsung didn't do anything wild with the UI, I still think they did enough with just bringing the hardware to our hands. And yeah, they had a roadblock. They got over it. I didn't think they would. I really thought they were going to just run away like they did with the Note 7. Batteries are defective and let's just can the whole generation. And that sucked. It really did. Apple would have just let us all blow up. I already know that. I mean, come on, when they made a phone that couldn't actually make calls, they gave everyone a free case. Thank God those days are over. At any rate, the Fold is real, the Fold is legitimate, battery life is solid, it'll get you through a day, it's got all the cameras you could possibly need, around 2 hours to charge, and you really do have the best of both worlds. I just wish the resolution on the inner screen was a little bit higher, because then you could fully utilize this 7+ inch tablet. But if that's the expense, besides the IP rating and the plastic screen that you got to be careful with, well worth it in my opinion. I just wish this had gotten out on time. Then I wouldn't already own a Note 10 Plus and a Tab S6. And that's where I leave you with the Samsung Galaxy Fold. Amazing piece of hardware. Thank you, Samsung, for putting this out. Don't really care about the included headphones. That's why I didn't cover them. You're not buying this phone for those headphones. It's a freebie. I think Samsung should be incentivizing trade-ins to sell this. The fact of the matter is they don't need to. They're not making it in a large enough quantity to worry about that. That's why they've sold out internationally and here in the US. None available. I told you I had to travel 300 miles. Guess what? A week later, I still can't pick one up. In fact, the stores that I bought it from, they don't have inventory, even if I wanted to drive 300 miles. And that's why I didn't hesitate for a moment. Got off my butt, got in that car, and took a small trip to hell in order to come back with the Samsung Galaxy Fold. And trust me, it was worth it. Because now I know what's in store for my next handset. Again, if I didn't already have what I've got here, what I shared in previous comparisons, this would be my handset. Except it wouldn't be on AT&T. Oh my God, AT&T is like, I can't even wait to, they're going to prorate me on this plan. Screw them. A curse. So Samsung, no thank you for picking AT&T, the worst carrier on earth. You may as well have copped Sprint. I mean, Jesus Christos. Why AT&T? I don't love Verizon. They're expensive too. But if you live where I live or you live where I used to live, either of those carriers sucks. In fact, I've never heard anybody be like, AT&T is great. Verizon, I have coverage everywhere I go. May not be at a value, but it works. And that's what matters when you spend this kind of coin on anything. It either works or it doesn't. Hope you all enjoyed the review. The Fold is the real deal. It is the future. It is the present. But the present may not be right for you. The future, on the other hand, well, I don't know that you're going to have options. This is where things will go, I promise. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button. And as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.